Hey, Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
How
Hi,
are
how are
you?
you? Good, Prema. I'm sorry, I can only stay for half an hour.
I cannot listen to you.
Can you hear me
Can you
okay?
listen to me? People, Madhavana. Can you can you listen to me off or not?
Hello.
Hare
Yes.
Krishna.
Hey, can you listen to me off?
Yes.
Mm. Thank you. How are you all doing?
Doing great.
Doing good. How about you, Prema?
You can't? I can hear both of you.
Hey, maybe now.
I
Yeah,
can hear.
I'm trying to
Yes.
say
I can hear.
something.
I can hear you.
Me too.
Do you mind to help me to just do a task? Because I think that I cannot hear you, but can you say something, anything?
Did you say that you can't hear us?
And I do. Okay, let's see now.
Can you
Oh,
hear
can
us
barely
now?
see it. Huh?
How about now, Prema? Krishna Devi, I don't think she can hear us.
I do. Yes. I can.
Maybe she's
I don't
not. You're
I
trying
don't think
to.
she can hear us.
I'm
I
trying
do.
to solve my
Yeah.
AirPods problems here. Sorry. Um,
Prema is going, she just sent me the slides, you guys, so I just want to bring up the slides. She's having some audio difficulty. So just a second so I can share the screen. Thank you. Okay, can you guys see the screen okay?
Yeah.
Let's see. I just want to make sure. Yeah, so I'll just start this and whenever she hops back on. But she just wanted me to share this with you. So Dharma in difficult times, how to execute your purpose while managing human emotions. So she does such a wonderful job with her slideshows. Um, so while she's figuring out the audio, I'll just read this to you guys. So the idea of this meeting is to discuss some topics related to Rama Navami in a way that allows us to reflect on how these teachings apply to our daily lives. The purpose is to connect and share different points of view, not to judge others based on our own values. And we will have several questions for everyone to answer based on your own life experience. Remember, we're all learning. And if you don't feel comfortable answering a question, you can skip it or ask someone else to respond instead. So let's see what she has here. Okay, so obedience to Dharma. Rama accepts exile without resistance, demonstrating radical alignment with duty over comfort, even when the decision is externally imposed and emotionally painful. So that's the one. So we're talking about all these obstacles or difficulties. The next one is leadership integrity. Ram's response reinforces trust and social order, showing how leaders model values through action, not rhetoric, especially in times of crisis. And then finally, inner conflict. Despite emotional cost, Rama integrates grief without deviating from purpose, illustrating emotional regulation rather than suppression. And so here are Prema's questions. So Dharma is not abstract, it's lived through choices. So this is her first question. What is one insight you will apply this week? So this idea of Dharma is not abstract. So I think I understand what she means. It's just not philosophical. It's not in theory. It's not, a Dharma is just not words in Shastra. It's actually lived through the choices that we make. So what is one insight you will apply this week? So in terms of Dharma, is there anyone who'd like to share on that? Maybe like understanding your choice that you've made and then how, or maybe just foreseeing a choice that you need to make this week and how that applies. I actually can share something. I think for myself, my mom is, she's getting older now. She's in her 80s and she's got some health issues, of course, at that age. And, I'm just really, we're thinking about, just how we support her. She's just a wonderful person. She's lived such an amazing life. And, I feel like it's my duty as her daughter to talk about stories from her life. Like, for her to reflect upon her life and we can have fun talking about it. Like what I find really interesting about her is that she is a traveler of the world. She actually went to India in the 1990s. And that really influenced me so much as a kid. Like I thought it was super cool that she went to India and she came home with a lot of pictures and she shared so much with me. Um, so I just really appreciate all of her experiences that she gave or she lived through. And she actually gave me the idea that someday I'll live in different countries or the idea of like experiencing different cultures or being interested in different cultures and different people. That's something that my mom really bestowed upon me. So I just want her to know that I'm so appreciative as her daughter. So I feel like in a way it's my duty to serve her, since she is 80 years old. So that's one insight I've had because again, she's having a few health problems and yeah, I just want to serve her in the best way. Is there anyone else who'd like to share? Okay, I'll move on to the next slide. Okay, Ram accepts exile. Exile. Oh, thank you, Rob. Okay, Rob comments in the chat, Dharma happens in the present by being present. If I'm not present, I can't perform my Dharma of the moment. Whether that's being a father, a coach, a friend, a brother, a fellow devotee, etc. My Dharma hat shifts as I move throughout the day. Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, that's like where we're talking about the roles. Thank you for sharing that, Rob. So, Prema's next question. When life feels unfair, do I resist, complain, or try to align with the higher purpose? Choose someone to answer the same question after you. So, yeah, when life feels unfair, do I resist, complain, or try to align with the higher purpose? Would someone like to share on that as well? And you can always put it in the chat too. I'd be happy to read it for you.
I think maybe when we feel the life is unfair, it depends on the moment. Sometimes you just need to resist because you know that's temporary, and in a while the things are gonna get better. Sometimes you need to complain because it's also important to have someone to um share things that make you feel unhappy. So you don't need to hold all the time. It's important if you have someone with trust to not just complain, but share things that make us feel unhappy. And sometimes we have to try to align a higher purpose because we know that um, when things get difficult is because you are learning. We know that in the difficult moments is when we grow. So it's also important sometimes to keep trying and have the hope that it's for a higher purpose. So it depends on the moment. It's what I understand from that question.
Yeah, that's excellent. Thank you for sharing that, Krishna Devi. So when life feels unfair, do I resist, complain, or try to align with the higher purpose? I think for myself, I'm better at evaluating. So not without reacting first. So when I feel like something unfair has happened, for example, I can say that maybe I've had a difference in opinion or an argument with a friend. Can I step back now and see her point of view? Yeah, I can definitely step back and see her point of view because I'm taking the time to do so. I'm pausing. Like I feel like knowing that relationships are built and not to tamper with a strong relationship, I need to really understand the other person. So in a way, I might feel it might feel unfair to me because maybe I want to be right, but I feel like that a lot of that has fallen away, to be honest with you, because I see the bigger picture. I see that again, relationships are very important. That's what Bhakti has taught me. My number one relationship is with Krishna. So why wouldn't Krishna want me to nourish a relationship that two people have built? So that's just my kind of personal take on that. Would anyone else like to share from this question? Dana, Prema was having some audio difficulty. She just asked me to go through the slides, so just letting you know. Oh, she's back. Prema, were you able to figure out your audio?
I'm still trying to figure out my audio. I'm really sorry for you all for this mess. Just Apple problems, right?
Oh, no worries. No worries. It happens. Would you like me to keep going through the slides?
Yeah, please, because I'm still trying to figure it out here. My AirPod is not connecting for some reason. But yeah,
Okay,
I
I can definitely hear you. If you want, I can just go through the slides. Can you guys hear? Can you guys do thumbs up if you could hear Prema, please? Okay, thank you. Prema, do you want me to just go through the slides so you can speak upon your presentation? She might still be having troubles. Okay, guys, I'll go ahead. Let me see. Here we go. Okay, Sita's kidnapping. Whoops, I think I went. Oh. Okay, Sita's kidnapping, violence and misuse power. I'm just going to read this off to you. Desire, Ravana's unchecked desires, arrogance, lust, greed leads to his destruction. V, victim impact, Sita's dignity challenged, yet remains spiritually steady. P, power abuse, authority used for control rather than protection. And M, modern parallel, reflect on manipulation in relationships and systems. So just going to the next slide. Let me see. Oops. So Sita follows Ram. Question, what does loyalty mean in my life? And where is the line between love and self-abandonment? So I'll read that again. What does loyalty mean in my life? And where is the line between love and self-abandonment? That's a really interesting question. I remember listening to a podcast. The presenter, his name escapes me, but he talked about this exact same thing, the idea of like engaging in relationship. And it could be any kind of relationship, not necessarily romantic, but it's like when do we cross over that boundary into self-abandonment that is beyond the love between myself and another person? So it's a really interesting question. Would anyone like to share on that? Is that something that they've explored in their lives, in your lives? Oh, please go ahead, Scott.
I was thinking, could we read something about this first? Because I feel like we're jumping into this without hearing about his exile.
It's Prema's presentation, so she just wanted me to go through the slides. I would have to ask her just because it's her class. I'm just kind of filling in because she's having the technical
Okay.
difficulties.
Yeah, I was just, yeah, okay. Go ahead. Sorry about that.
Oh, that's okay. No, I understand. I would have to ask her and see what she wants to do. Um, hmm.
So I can talk. I would say I've come across some interesting readings lately that kind of deal with this and what happens when I stop seeing people as people and I start seeing them as objects, or I become more caught up in what they think of me rather than thinking of them and their needs, or how to approach the relationship. So I would think self abandonment happens when I start to deceive myself into thinking more about what this person thinks of me rather than thinking of them as a person and that they have needs and wants and desires and cares, and concerns. And when I can focus on the personal aspect of that person, and really see them as a person and as a spirit soul, I can act out of love towards them. But when I'm caught up in either objectifying them, what can I get out of them? What do they think of me? How do they perceive me? What, can I manipulate them? Even if it's like by being nice to somebody, right? If I'm being nice to somebody or doing things for somebody because I need them to see me a certain way, then I've kind of lost that action of love. And I've now gone into more of a self abandonment because I'm not being true to myself either when I'm not being true to them.
Yeah, that's a great point, Rob. The idea of like objectification and also self-objectification just to please someone else. Like, should I do all this stuff because this person wants me to do it, even though I don't feel like that it's authentic? Yeah, that's self-abandonment. I'm objecting myself. Or, for example, I want, like you said, like, oh, okay, this person, I really want this out of them. They can help me in this way. I'm very opportunistic. No, that's just treating them, totally objectifying them. That's not seeing who they really are. They're a spirit soul just like myself. And to respect that, I think respect really plays into that a lot. Thank you for sharing that. Anyone else on this question? Sorry, I'm just kind of toggling between the slides. I didn't mean to do that. Oh, okay. She said she finally connected. Excellent. Are you good to go, Prema? Would you like me to stop the share? Oh, there she is.
No, you can continue sharing if you don't mind, because I connected with the iPhone, but I don't know why my Mac is not working with the AirPods. So if you don't mind to continue leading the meeting, would be really nice. I'm sorry, apologize again all for this inconvenience.
No worries, no worries. Okay, so I'll keep going here. Okay, continuing with Sita's kidnapping. Question. Okay, do you think that ambition can justify harm? Why? Give an example knowingly worldwide. I'm sorry, worldwide. Choose someone to answer the same question. Okay, so do you think that ambition can justify harm? So can anyone speak upon that within the Ramayana? Like, can we go back to, is that what you had planned, Prema? Like, can we like go back and forth between the epic and then also the question so we can just understand the dilemma?
Yeah, 100%. The idea was that we could have some highlights of the story and bring this to our life. thinking about how we can apply these teachings in our daily lives. Because sometimes we read the pastimes, but we cannot connect with our routine, right? So in this way, my idea was to bring some questions that we all face in our daily lives, so we can reflect about some points and also think about the pastime.
Sounds good. The only thing is that I'm not as familiar with the Ramayana than I am with the Mahabharata. So if you guys want to hop in and just talk about, I mean, I know about the major theme and in the epic, but I'm not sure if I can speak upon the misused power. So if anyone would like to speak about that, and then hook that into, do you think that ambition can justify harm? Yeah, if this is a Mahabharata, I could do that.
So in Rama pastime, we see this Ravana, right, the demon, because he was justifying his ambitions without caring for harm everyone, for the noise. I'm in a coffee shop right now. So for Ravana, nothing matters. The life of anyone doesn't matter if you harm Sita or not. And even that Sita was under the protected circle, Ravana was trying to make her go out of the protection circle, remember? So he would be able to grab her and do whatever. So the ambitions of Ravana didn't know any limits. And this makes me think, if anyone here, do you think that ambition can justify harm, and why? Give an example now worldwide. And when I was writing this question, I was thinking about some governments, some leaders, unfortunately, knows no boundaries. And doesn't matter if the population will suffer with wars, continue to do it because they want to have even more money, more gas, and whatever. So, in my opinion, you need to have values, you need to have moral guidelines to act. And unfortunately, we don't see this in many leaderships nowadays. What do you all think?
What I could say is that ambition in like talking about Ramayana, we see that we had two different kind of leaders, and both of them had ambitions, and they were used in a different ways. Rama, he was a leader and he had an ambition. Also, Ravana was a leader and he had an ambition. But when you have a power, you can use the ambition to get empowerment and make the best use of it, as Rama did. If you use your power and your ambition to harm people, just justifying that you are doing it to care about a small amount of people, or for someone that you have interest to give some benefits, it's the kind of excuse they give to use this ambition. So if you are a real leader and you have one ambition that is related to caring about all the population, you are a real leader in the mood of goodness, as Rama was.
This is amazing because many times the word ambitious is rated as something totally bad, which is not, right? You can have an ambition in a positive way also. Like the ambition of Hanuman to build a bridge with all the monkeys. This is very ambitious, right?
Yeah, I really agree with you on that. The ambition kind of has a negative connotation, I think. I mean, if the intention is to help others, I think that's more sattvic. I think the ambition is okay. Maybe it's ambition, maybe it's more I'm looking for like another word. Maybe it could be like I don't know, like I'd have to think about that, but yeah, I think in my own life, like sometimes I'm very excited to do something and I think, oh, I think this is going to help. I think this is going to help. Like if my intention is, I think it's going to help other people. It might be thought of as ambition, but I honestly like I feel like as long as I'm aligned with a good intention, I don't know. I feel like I can justify that, I guess. Maybe I need more feedback from the devotees so they can tell me to keep my ambition in check.
We all have ambition, and have ambition is not a problem because it pushes us to grow. The things that we cannot use the ambition to harm people, to make them feel useless or less than other people. But the ambition is it's good. As you're saying about Mahabharata, Yudhishthira had the ambition, and that's why he was the emperor of the world, because he used his ambition to care for people. So that's the thing. Also, if we consider, we have many things that sometimes we think there is a not good quality, but if you use in the right way, it can have a reason why. For example, in Ramayana, um, Hanuman used his anger to destroy and burn the whole village, but he was serving his leader. He was serving Rama, and he was doing that to protect Sita and to rescue her. So he was using his anger to serve God, and this is something that you can justify.
I would also say the only time harm is ever justified is when it prevents a greater harm. Because the H.G. Goswami really likes this argument and goes into the philosophical discussion of like, if there's somebody on the train track, if there's a train speeding by and it can't stop and there's a whole bunch of children on board and you could push somebody into the way of the train in order to make it stop, like, do you? Like, because you're doing harm to that person, right? But in the process, you're also saving, you know, dozens of innocent lives as well. And so he really enjoys this discussion, where there's different philosophies where it's like, no, because you're intentionally doing harm to somebody. Whereas if you don't do any action, the harm happens to these other people, but at least you didn't have to take on any kind of karmic responsibility. And it's maybe not directly associated with ambition, but I would say it illustrates a point where if you're going to do harm, it had better be in order to prevent the harm of a greater degree. Like when another story uses like when we take our child to the doctor to get a vaccine, like we're causing harm, right? We're sticking them with a needle, but we're in the process of that smaller harm. We're preventing a much greater harm from a disease that they could contract. Um, and so I think ambition falls in that. If your ambition is going to cause harm to others, I don't think it's allowed at all. And I think it's pretty great that Ram exemplifies this, right? Like he could take the throne, right? He could fight to take the throne, or he could take his exile and prevent the harm that it would cause the relationships between his father and his mother's and his brother. So he chose not to put his ambition above them, right? And so he chose exile instead. And I'd say that kind of illustrates how a leader should be, where their ambitions should not put their own people in jeopardy, or in this is pretty extreme degree even, and just to do it for material gain or wealth or prestige is not a reason to put someone else in harm. And that's just my opinion, right? I think it boils down to an individual's qualities, ultimately, whether they decide that their ambition justifies putting someone else at harm or not.
Thank you so much, Rob and Krishna Devi. I'll go to the next slide. Oops, sorry, I'm just trying to figure out this. Okay, so Ravana kidnaps Sita. Kidnaps Sita. Question: where do I see myself using force, manipulation, or pressure to achieve a goal? So where do I see myself using force, manipulation, or pressure to achieve a goal? Wow, that's a tough one. I don't know. I hope, well, I'm not going to say anything. I'm going to reserve my own anecdote. So who would like to offer? Who would like to offer a share on that?
Well, I think that force and manipulation are really strong words, right? But when you want to achieve your best, you want to really achieve a goal, like for instance, you have a Sankirtan goal to do it, because Devala will do a really special Zoom meeting with Marcita, right? In the next few days. How we can try to achieve this goal in the best way possible. So I don't think that we need to see ourselves using force and manipulation. Ideally, we want to pressure ourselves to achieve a goal, right? But if we pressure ourselves too much, or if we pressure others, those around us too much, may be being pushy and forcing people and manipulating people, and this is not what you want, right? What you want.
I think for myself, I take the knowledge that Krishna has given us from the Gita. And this is honestly, you guys, I'm not one to quote Shastra, but one of my most favorite and most beloved verses in the Bhagavad Gita is chapter 2, verse 47, 48. And Krishna says to Arjuna, do your duty, take action, and do not be concerned about the fruits. So it's like, for me, it's like I'm not really using force, manipulation, or pressure, but I just act accordingly. It's like, okay, I'm going to do this. I feel like it's going to help people. I'm going to do my duty. I'm going to take action, and I'm not going to worry about the result, because if I do something and I'm like, okay, I'm going to fail if, like, people don't see what I'm doing, or they don't show up, or they don't acknowledge me, well, I'm just going to really suffer. So, but if I do my duty and I take action and I'm like, you know what? Krishna's going to decide what happens. I'm relinquishing any kind of control. Krishna, thank you very much. You are my guide. And then it's honestly, I really take the pressure off. And I remember Keshava Swami saying this. Also, it's like the idea of that success is in the doing. And that is from that verse. So it's all about just taking the action, taking the first step, and not worrying about the outcome for me.
This is beautiful. And this makes me think that if you need to force someone to act some way, or if you want to manipulate someone to act some way, you are not trusting that Krishna will do what's best for the situation, right? Because as you said, we can do our best, but the results are in charge of Krishna.
I think manipulation too, it has a spectrum, right? There's subtle manipulations, there's overt manipulations, there's covert manipulations. And I think anyone that's conditioned by this material life probably engages in certain levels of manipulation even without knowing it, in just our day-to-day interactions. And it takes a very self-aware individual to be able to, at the least catch themselves in it, and at the best avoid it altogether, right? um and I mean, this can be seen even in book distribution. There's I've seen videos of devotees that force people to buy books by cornering them and like not letting them go basically until this person agrees to buy this book, and then you see the person walk away and throw it in the trash as soon as they come by trash. So it's like it can happen in all realms. I believe that it takes a very intentional process to overcome this conditioning of manipulation and force. I mean, force is a very strong word, but how often do we put somebody into an impossible situation where it's like they have to make the choice you want them to because you haven't given them any way out? That's force, right? But then there's the subtler manipulations where maybe you're complimentary to somebody that in a way you wouldn't normally, just be out of a genuine appreciation for somebody, and so you're trying to do something. It's like this story of like the kid that goes and does the dishes, and you're like, oh, thanks for doing the dishes, and they're like, oh yeah, can I borrow the car? It was like, okay, well, you just got manipulated. But it's a pretty subtle form, and it's not, I wouldn't even say it's malicious, right? But yet it's manipulative. It's not genuine. And I think it's important to try and practice being a genuine, authentic person, because I feel that's what Krishna would want us to do.
I agree with that, Rob. And I also see, like, even sometimes some of the people speaking or teaching, there's this fear element of a manipulation of like, oh, you better do your rounds. Oh, you better do this. Oh, you better do that. Or, you know, or you're just gonna continue reliving this. You're gonna come back again. You're gonna do this. This is gonna happen. La 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 la. I mean, even the fear of like, Krishna whispers in your ear, and then if you don't hear him, he plays his flute, and then if you really don't hear him, he beats you over the head with a 2x4. Like those kinds of things. Like that's me seems subtle, but it's like, hello, you know what I mean? And so, and then I end up doing that to myself, having pressure on myself, and then there's what is this then? So I think that, yeah. So I agree with what you're saying in a different way, but like, I see what you're saying, these different elements, these different levels.
While I was listening to all of you, I was thinking about how I could use myself as an example to how how to I had to do all these things to myself to achieve a goal. For example, I 5 years ago I left my country in Brazil and I came to live in Cancun for the college, and I had to make some, I wouldn't say manipulation, but some deals with me so I could, in the moments of weakness or moments that I wanted to give up or I thought that I wouldn't be able to do it, force myself and like do something that I didn't want to because I knew that I had to achieve this goal. I put pressure on me and I had to manipulate myself, saying that you do that and you get that. And then after 5 years I just graduated, and I felt that this was used in a good way because I was forcing myself, manipulating my mind to believe that I could do it, and put some pressure because I had to believe that I could do it. And sometimes our minds just are our enemies and they say, you can't, you won't be able to do it. And you have to put some pressure and some force to get to achieve a goal.
Okay, I'll go to the next slide. This is really good stuff, you guys. I really appreciate what you're sharing. Let's see. Just want to make sure I don't go too far ahead. Here we go. Okay, Rama's grief. Question. How do I deal with loss? Do I suppress emotions or allow them while staying grounded in purpose? So how do we deal with loss? Rama's grief. So I think I'm assuming that Rama is grieving over Sita being kidnapped and not being there anymore. This is a big one. How do I deal with loss? I mean, that can mean many things to a person. I mean, that could, in the material world, that could be deal with the loss of like, a material object. That could be very hard for many people. I mean, it could be hard for me. I mean, really, like I actually had a flat tire in my car over the weekend. It's like, well, how am I going to do stuff? How am I going to get from here to there in this material world without a car? So, yeah, I had to kind of figure that out. So it could be something as simple as that impacts my life in a bigger way. So I think loss can be, of course, it could be something much larger and dealing, with the loss of a loved one, So there's definitely a range. There's losses could be up and down and right and left and, any which way. So would anyone like to share on that?
I'd say what are you mourning? Are you mourning something, material that was temporary anyway and that didn't really hold any emotional or spiritual value? Because I mean, let's say I lost my, I don't want to say my wallet because there's important things in there, but like, well, I'll just say, well, I'll do it anyway. Like, I lost my wallet, and if I get super upset and I get angry and I'm yelling and I'm mistreating the people around me, then that grief is maybe a little bit misplaced. Frustration might have been a little bit more appropriate, right? Taking action to cancel credit cards or whatever, or get new ID, new cards, would be more constructive and less of a grief response. But let's say my guru dies. Would it not be right to feel a remorse and a grief at the loss of this great soul to in this world and the connection? Yeah, but at the same time, I think it's also important to remember, and we have this privilege, right? Being within bhakti and having this understanding of the cycle of life and things like that, to where I can also remember that I can find comfort in my guru through his teachings and lectures, books, whatever. Like, and so that grief is tempered through our experience in bhakti and through the lens of bhakti. Someone else losing a loved one that doesn't have even a rudimentary understanding of bhakti may suffer much more or in a different way or respond differently to grief. But I think grief also in those kind of situations where it's an individual that's lost or perhaps a meaningful relationship that's lost, um, is unique to each individual and their past lives, their past experiences, and how that manifests in the way they react. Some people might react with anger. Some people might go right to sadness. Others may fall into depression. Some may experience all three, And so I don't think there's an easy way to really define that other than, or put a finger on it, other than what is it that we're grieving and why?
Yeah, I think this is really important to say, Rob, because every person will deal with loss and grief in a different way. and experience different states of grief, right? Years ago, people used to say that grief is in states, but now people have an understanding that you can experience mixed emotions, mixed states in different parts of the process. And in Gita, we see that it's okay to feel sad, but you don't have you shouldn't lamentate, right? You shouldn't fall in lamentation. And these are very different things, because when you have the knowledge, as you said, the knowledge of bhakti, the knowledge that this world is temporary and we are spiritual souls, when you lost someone, you know that it's not like forever. You know that the soul will continue the journey. You have this knowledge. And yes, for someone that doesn't have the, it's quite different for sure. For sure.
I just like to share that there's a polar opposite to grief. And I only say this because my god sister shared with me a video that actually a lecture by Martin Pratchell. So he's a Mayan philosopher, and he talked about grief. And what I found that was so interesting about his talk is that he said, if there's no grief, you don't praise. So saying that the grief within the grief is love, because we love the things that we lose, even though they're temporary. Like, it's not in bhakti, I don't believe I'm not going to push away my grief just because I say, oh, I'm a spirit soul. Everything is changing in this material world. Well, guess what? I'm living in the material world, so I will have to deal with loss, and a lot of it as I move through life. So it shows me that I value life. I value the relationships. I value the experiences. And yeah, grief is going to happen because there's going to be, multiple times where, I passed from, pass through these kind of polar opposites, the idea of like grieving and praising. Actually, they're just all in one. They're one kind of thing. And that's what Martin Purcell was talking about. It was an excellent class.
And it is very important. As someone that is written the passed away of my dad, totally relate to this. All the sad days, all the memories, it's because he loved someone. Simple like this. Yeah, thank you, Devalaya.
Okay, I can read the slide. Hanuman's anger, transforming emotion into service. Sacred anger, Hanuman channels anger not as egoic reaction, but as a feeling aligned in service of Dharma, showing emotion can be purified. And discernment, his anger is guided by Dharma, ensuring actions remain purposeful rather than destructive or impulsive. And the last one, courageous action, burning Lanka, symbolizes confronting injustice directly when remaining rooted in devotion. Prema, I'm giving this all to you because you know the specifics.
Oh no, it's really this. Just highlight these topics because we know that Hanuman made a difference, right? Even being only a monkey, a small monkey, put together all the monkeys to do the bridge. And when you're alone, it's not possible to do many things, right? Like when we look to Krishna West, we are Krishna West because we are as a collective, right? Happily with the guidance of Acharydev, and we all doing our small part. We are building this movement. We are building this beautiful group of practitioners, of seekers that try to practice bhakti in their daily lives. But alone wouldn't be like this at all, at all. So we try to have the discernment with the philosophy, with the teachings. We are bravely putting our knowledge in action. And here, the first topic is sacred anger, right? So we all have our challenge, things that we would like to do in a different way, how we think that we could be more inclusive, more attractive, more could it hear your best objective. And we collectively are trying to do this together. So that's the power of Hanuman's anger, transforming your emotion into service. Because many times people think that anger is not a good emotion, is not valid, or you should suppress your anger, or you should be a yogi, you should be nice all the time and just say nice things. But that's not true, right? And something is not good, you should speak as well. And anger it's a very important emotion, very important emotion. As bhakti practitioners, we should try to observe and analyze our emotion and not to suppress them. Because I don't know if you agree with me, but when you're cleaning your house and you're putting dust under the rug, under the carpet, the rug will stay there. And as more you put dust under the rug, under the carpet, more dust you have there. So you're not cleaning, you're just moving things from one place to another. And in the same way with anger, right? Emotions that you refuse to work will continue there in your heart, in your mind, in your body. And one way or another, now or in a few days, weeks, months, years, they will explode. We see this in relationships when you don't talk things, you don't discuss things, and you just don't say what bothers you, things snowball, right? So instead of don't do anything with this anger, Hanuman transformed this powerful emotion into service, trying to use all this energy to something bigger. Devala, would you mind to skip to the next slide, please?
I had a thought about the slide just before. Hello? Yeah, so I had a thought about the slide before. So I was thinking about anger and channeling anger, and I'm thinking about individual as opposed to collective. And I know next week I'm going to No Kings protest, and it's a lot more powerful to take that anger and put it into action instead of acting out and doing it as an individual on social media or something like that. So I think anger can be channeled into action, and you don't have to have that anger be destructive.
I'd say this is a pretty slippery slope. Well, and these are just my own personal takes and perspective and understanding on things, but I'm not qualified to exercise healthy anger. I think it should be processed, and I think should be worked. And in my own life, anytime that I'm angry at something, it usually involves a lack of processing, or it's more of a reaction rather than a response. And it usually means that I'm not tapped into Krishna's will, and that I'm not having faith to get myself through a situation. It doesn't change the experience. It doesn't change what I might be going through, but it does change how I will respond to it. And me personally, this is just me personally, I don't feel I have any kind of the qualifications that Hanuman has to be able to exercise a sacred righteous anger. Because mine will absolutely end up being based in a selfish reaction. And it doesn't mean that I don't have anger within, even when I am healthily approaching it. But I have to remember that for me, Krishna wants me to act in a loving way. And so if there's an experience that is causing anger for me, there's also a solution within my practice of bhakti and connection with Krishna that will allow me to approach it from a place of love. That doesn't mean that I'm going to allow it to happen. It doesn't mean that I'm not going to stand up for myself. But when I can do it from a place of compassion and love and not react in anger, that is, like Scott was saying, like non-destructive, then I am in a better place. I don't get bent out of shape. I don't cause harm to another person, as we were kind of discussed earlier in this. Instead, I have an opportunity to show love and grace while also taking action that's going to be constructive, into resolving the situation, resolving the anger. Or there's times when there's nothing I can do, and I need to surrender that to Krishna. And I'll need to allow Krishna to take that. But that's just my own perspective, my own experience.
Thank you for sharing. Yes, me particularly, I don't think that I have any qualifications of Hanuman also, but have as an inspiration of what I would like to be, how I would like to be. So for me, anger become useful when I face that I don't like it, and or I don't agree it, and I try to do something to change these realities. And for me, become harmful when, as Rob said, when I try to suppress or don't elaborate these emotions.
Would you like me to keep going, Prema?
Yeah, thank you, please. Yeah.
Yeah, I just want to say, Robin, Prema, everything that you said really made so much sense to me. So thank you so much. I really feel in alignment with you guys. Okay, so Hanuman meets Sita. Question: how can I become an instrument of hope in someone else's moment of suffering? Tell us about some situation that you faced, and after chose someone to answer choose someone to answer the same question. So, some kind of situation. How can I become an instrument of hope in someone else's moment of suffering? Gosh, I can just answer that, if you guys wouldn't mind. Instrument of hope. I don't know if I'm an instrument of hope, but I can lessen the load by listening to the person. And not just, I mean, really listening, like active listening, like listening to their tone of voice. If I'm in person with them, like listening, looking at their disposition, like how they're holding their body, like their mood, like just really feeling them like 100%, and just being like a friend, just listening and not offering to solve anything. I find that I've done too much in the past by like, what should I do for my friends? I don't know what to do. Like, maybe I shouldn't do anything. No, all I need to do is listen.
This is beautiful. On the last meeting, Madhuvana said something very meaningful for me. We are talking about grief and loss because we are in the second chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, right? And then she said that many times people don't need any advice. Just need you to look to them and say that you be there for them, or if you have this space, right? There's a relationship that you can hug someone and say that you be there. If someone needs something, you be there. And this is so simple and so powerful. And Madhuvana, I stay thinking about this for days. Thank you.
That's nice to know.
Yeah, I'm curious if there's anything else, like how do you guys act? Like how, or not act, like, you know, just like how do you take action in this? Or how do you approach this? I'm just really curious. I really like what you had to say, Prema. Because I feel like we have a similar approach. But I mean, there might be other approaches. I just don't know.
Well,
I'd say empathy. Oh, go ahead. No, go
or
ahead, Major. All right. Just exercising empathy, and not being a fixer, not trying to take the person's pain away from them. And like was said, like listen and ask, because oftentimes we don't know what somebody needs because we all do grieve in different ways. We all suffer in different ways. And so asking will help us be of the best use to someone. Maybe somebody just needs a hug. Maybe somebody just needs them to listen. Maybe somebody needs you to make them a meal. Maybe somebody needs to hear you say it's going to be okay. But not everybody needs all of those things, and maybe they don't always need them in the same moment. Our needs change as we travel the road of grief and suffering. Like I think being able to empathize with somebody without sympathizing or pitying, I think that's important because when we pity, we don't respect. So we need to respect that person's experience, respect their suffering, and just be available, like was said, whether that's to listen, to lend a hand, but to ask first so that we don't make assumptions about what someone needs.
May I add to that, Rob?
Please.
So this is what I found when I went through the loss of my spouse. One of my friends said, "Tell us what you need." And I thought to myself, oh my gosh, she wants me to tell, my community what I need. And I said, how do I do that? And she said, listen, there's going to be so many people wanting to offer to help you with this, that, another thing, like clean your house, make the meals, bring the kids to school, blah, 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 blah. And she said, do you want them to do all those things? And I said, well, it's very kind of everyone, but I think it would be overwhelming to me. And she's like, well, tell us. And I said, it'd be really nice if people brought me flowers. And because I really like flowers and it makes me feel nice. And she's like, okay, well, we'll just tell everyone to bring you flowers. And that's what they did. I just thought it was amazing because if they were to bring food, I would have been very overwhelmed with all the food, I mean, it's not like it's a beautiful act. I'm very, very appreciative, but it would have added to my burden. Or if they would have asked me to, oh, I can take your kids here. I would like feel disconnected from my kids. I would be like, don't take my kids away. I just lost my spouse. So it's in a way, it's like a combination of stuff. Like we really, yeah. I just love my friend for asking me that.
yeah, that's beautiful. Because Devalaya, me particularly, I offer many types of help, acts of service, whatever, but I never came with flowers to someone. It's not something that I do in general. When I'm visiting someone for the first time, yes, or a birthday, but it's quite obvious thinking now, but it's not something that I would do. So yeah, it varies a lot from person to person, right?
Yeah, for sure. And it's all about listening. It's like we want to understand that person better. So yeah, that's just something that worked for me. Should I go to the next slide, Prima?
Yes, please. So Hanuman burns Lanka. When does anger serve Dharma, and when does it just serve my ego? That's the time when everyone is thinking about, oops, any situation that's very awkward. When does anger serve Dharma, and when does it just serve my ego? I think that when people try to camouflage, let's say like this, special needs with something as devotional service or for the collective doesn't fly well. What about you all?
I think I have something interesting to share related to Ramayana. We all know that Hanuman is a pure devotee of Rama. And we all know that even the most pure devotee, they make mistakes. And we are so lucky that we have our gurus or the person that instruct us to make us understand that if our anger is serving Dharma or is just serving our ego. It happened that when they had to cross the island, they were building a bridge, and all the animals were helping Rama to build the bridge. And in a certain moment, Hanuman was carrying, Hanuman was a giant monkey, and he was carrying a huge rock, and he was just crossing an ant, and he was angry to her because she was on his way. He said, just move, get out of my way because I'm carrying this huge rock. And then Rama uh, asked him why you were offending or angry with this ant. He said, because I'm doing a huge service and she's just carrying a small sand. And Hanuman said, it's okay, but she is doing the best she can do to serve me as you are. So don't compare the service. Not because you are doing something bigger, it means that your service is pure than the end service. So in this singular situation, Hanuman was using his anger to serve his own ego, thinking that he was better than an ant because he was serving Rama in a better way. And it was not like that. And Rama just told him, learn something from that. Your anger must to serve the Dharma, not to serve your ego.
It's a beautiful one. Very powerful, Madhvenu. Yes, yes, yes. And we all know that all sevas are important, but we tend to see some opportunities to serve as more important than others, even though, right? Very important. Thank you. Better with Ravana. Question. What are the inner demons? Am I currently avoiding confronting? I think that when we don't want to face some anarthas, we are trying to avoid some confront. And I was thinking about this with the card that Devale shared. Because I said, oh, beautiful, I love the flowers, blah, blah, blah. And then Rob put highlight something very important, that some traumas and addictions cannot be surfaced by bhakti. And I started thinking about this really, because I didn't pay attention to this part. And I think I see many people avoiding to get in touch with the real problem. Like, oh, I don't want to go to therapy. I don't need to go to a psychologist. And Krishna will take care of me. I'll attend my rounds and the mantra will do the work. And it's not like this, right? Sometimes people need different things, right? If you are with cancer, you go to the oncologist. If you are with tooth pain, you go to the dentist. And that's how it is. So I was super thinking about this. And I think that these inner demons can be compared to an artist. What do you?
Yeah, I'd say the anartas, and for me, it's almost kind of like summed up simply with like the seven deadly sins. With pride and greed and lust and slothfulness and gluttony and envy and jealousy. Like those are all things that I try to face them as best as I can. I have a program of living in association with my bhakti that requires me to take a hard look at these things, but I don't do that all day every day. I'm still human, I'm still entangled, and so I still fall into these traps. And then I avoid having to actively work on them because it can be hard work sometimes. And so I'd say it's an ebb and a flow. Um, Anger being one that I do try to avoid. But I do need to work on it a lot, and I've done a lot of work on it, but I still have a lot more work to do. And so I think it's a process, it's a direction that I go in when I'm doing my best, and when I don't feel I'm doing my best, or when my best isn't as good as yesterday's best, then maybe I avoid certain things that I don't feel I have the ability to face or confront in a moment. But I never put it off indefinitely. I may avoid for a while, but I know eventually I'm going to come back to this because it's something I do need to work on. That's one of the reasons why I'm here, right, in this life, is to work on these things. And if I continue to avoid them indefinitely, then I'm going to continue to reincarnate indefinitely, because these are things that I have to face. And I can't use spirituality to try and bypass them. If I do, I bury myself into the spirituality even more, but it's not authentic. It's a superficial. It's something that I'm trying to block off these things that I need to work on, not realizing that Krishna's put these things in my life specifically to work on, and when I try to avoid, I'm just extending the suffering.
And as anything that we need to work, it's going to be hard. We don't want to, it's going to give work, right? So it's not the easiest task.
Yeah, sometimes I'm not even aware of the inner demons. It's like I have to be in relationship for someone to point it out to me, and then perhaps I might get a little bit angry about that. So I need to look at when I do get a little angry, or if I want to engage in the battle, I got to look at that. Why do I want to engage in the battle? Because that might be something where I'm just totally unaware of. So in a way, like my anger is not that, I mean, I'm not, my inner anger is not horrible because it really signals to me that I need to do more work.
Yeah, thank you. I think that work on anger is not easy to anyone, right? But at least we are trying to work with our anger in some way or another. We are trying to pay attention and observe how we react to situations, people that awake this anger and what to do. I don't know how many slides we have still. I know that we passed a little of our time, sorry. But I think that we are almost at the end. I'm not sure. Yeah, so building the bridge, collective service and contribution. As Devalaya said, oh, I love being part of the Krishna West Collective. Yeah, me too. So every role matters. From monkeys to leaders, each contribution is essential. Reinforcing a non-hierarchical vision of service where intention outweighs status. And we know that we have a hierarchical institution, but when it turns out seva and devotional service, it's very, everyone can engage in something, right? Tends to be very democratic, or at least should be. Unity in diversity. Different skills converge toward a shared transcendental goal, mirroring effective modern collaboration. Faith and effort. Spiritual success emerges from synchronized faith and action, not perceived belief. Yeah, because if it's only perceived belief, there is a risk of you turning into a fanatic person, right? Okay, and we skip to the layer. Do we value is not acts of service, mine and others are only visible, important contributions. Someone would like to reply this one?
I think only the invisible contributions are of the most value. They're the ones that don't feed the ego. They're the ones that are done out of pure auspicious desire to do what's right and desire to be of service. I mean, not to say that the ones that are visible aren't also important, but I think the ones that are most beneficial to us and hold the most value, for me, I should say, I can only speak for me, are like the small acts of service I do that I know nobody's going to notice. Those are the ones when I'm really doing things for the right reason.
I think the visible contributions are built with invisible acts. Because if you think about it, there might be like, one spokesperson on the podcast, that's delivering the message. But most likely there's people that are working behind that person to make that podcast happen. But we don't necessarily know who those people are. So it's really like what you said before, Prema. It's like it's a collective, and we rely on so many skill sets to make a whole. I mean, that's really the Varna ashram system too. It's like we depend on these different aspects of society to make it function harmoniously. Ideally we do.
Yeah, I agree. Like we as grihastas, we cannot stay in the temple all the time, worshiping the deity. And ideally, there's gonna be brahmacharinis and brahmacharis there to take care of the temple and what needs to be done. And grihastas will maintain these people there, while those who serve in the grihasta ashram for a long time are now vanaprasthas and being able to retire themselves and live so much more the spiritual lives. And the spiritual masters putting all the efforts on preaching and not in administration duties, right? So yeah, it's a very important addition. Sure. Don't know if someone would like to add something else. Otherwise, I think we can skip to the next one. I'm concerned about Asteya, stolen your time. Sorry, sorry, folks. It's a good one. Do we, as movement, value small contributions in our community? Explain your answer.
It doesn't matter how big or small. It does. I mean, there shouldn't be value. It's a contribution. Contribution is the most important thing, whatever it is. That, in my opinion.
I agree with you. I think that having people feeling able and comfortable to be involved, it's the best thing. Doesn't matter that if it's a small contribution or big contribution.
I think conceptually it is, and I agree with both of you. Actually, it is a community effort, right? And I don't think that there's any one job that is really in the big picture scheme of things. There's no job that's more important or less important than another, right? It's all bhakti, and that's what's the most important. Um, but we're still human, all of us in this movement, we're still human. And I think oftentimes, at least in my experience in the community out here, there have been times where it's the big contributions, the big donations, the big act of service that gets all the praise, and they'll hand out awards and it's like, and maybe it's because they want to encourage people to try and do more. And, it's not from a place of more importance or less importance. I don't know, but it is something that I've seen, and that there are times where I've let my ego get in the way, and there's like a bit of jealousy where it's like, wow, I just spent like how many days working on repairing the temple and doing things here, and yet that person that they just showed up and they donated a $500 check, just got all this recognition and I didn't. And that's me, right? That's on me. Um, because I shouldn't be seeking praise or recognition for what I'm doing. And I don't typically, but it doesn't mean that I'm not still capable of feeling that spike of jealousy, in the moment. And so I think as a movement overall, the concept is that we do value all. But I think it's also important to give grace, because we are still people. And sometimes we can get caught up in valuing bigger things more so than the unperceived smaller things.
This is very interesting because, yeah, money is important, and we know that big financial donations are important as well. But I think that we need to be able to recognize much more the work of everyone. So I think that as a movement, we value small contributions, but we tend to highlight much more conditions. Yes, I agree with you. It shouldn't be like this, right? I think we can skip to the next one. Whoops. Okay. So public opinion and Sita. Social pressure versus inner truth. That's the last part. So reputation pressure. Rama responds to societal expectations, revealing tension between personal conviction and leadership accountability and public roles. And we also have the ethical complexity. The decision challenges simplistic morality, inviting deeper reflection on contextual dharma and competent responsibilities. Right, can you skip to the next slide, please? Thank you. So this is more like the later pastime. So Rama considered the opinion of the citizens. How much do I allow others' opinions to define my choices? That's a
This is pretty major. This is a major question. How much do I allow others' opinions to define my choices? I would like to think maybe no, I don't allow. I can't say 0%, but honestly, I don't allow by the people who I don't really have a connection or that I don't have a connection with. You know, there might be people in my family or my community or just where I go, like, you know, just where my habits and hobbies are, even at my kids' school. But I think I really do value the devotees. So how much do I allow others' opinions to define my choices? I don't know about defining my choices, but I want to hear from the devotees because I really think they're awesome. So that's a tough one for me.
I think it's also
yeah.
important. Go ahead, Rich. I've been talking. Okay, you're gonna wait it out. All right. um, I think it's important to note the situation in this. You know, Ram is a leader of the people. You know, and we also need to look at the time period this is in as well. He's not just taking the superficial opinions of his citizens, right? He's taking very seriously the overall impression, and he's in a position of power, and he has to uphold his dharma, and he needs the trust, and he needs the love of his people to be able to lead them properly. You know, and in this situation, you know, and I don't think he took this decision lightly whatsoever. But it also kind of comes down to one of the earlier questions about harm, you know, like because he's either going to harm his people by failing in a dharma that he owes them, or he's going to harm Sita, right? And so he has to make the decision. Does he opt for the greater benefit of his people or for the benefit of the one he loves? And I don't think I can put myself in this situation at all, you know, because I am not, again, I'm not qualified. I'm not at all qualified to be able to really put myself into this situation, Ram, and be able to make the right choice, right? But on a simpler and like a more simplified form of this, and say I'm running a company and we'll say my son works for me. You know, if I'm dismissing maybe behaviors that aren't ideal, or I'm giving him better opportunities than I give other employees. That's going to create a level of distrust within my employees, and their well-being and their trust in me to be able to run the company is going to be diminished. And there have been situations where business owners have favored their own kid to the degree that it actually runs the business into the ground, because there's so much favoritism, and that's not even close to being on the same level as Ram and Sita, but it's more relatable to me in my very much lesser degree and my material entanglement to understand where there are situations where sometimes a hard decision needs to be made, and it needs to be balanced. Am I gonna just end a relationship with somebody just because a few other people say, oh, it's not a good relationship, or, oh, you're playing favorites with them, no, I'm not, but this was a much greater degree, a much bigger level. He's in charge of kingdoms, you know, and these kingdoms very much rely on the trust and the dharma of their king, because the dharma of the king and how well he upholds that directly affects the welfare of the kingdom, right? Especially, it talks about, when you have a wicked king or an evil king, that negatively affects the kingdom and the citizens directly. Whereas you have a righteous and a dharmic king, then that benefits the citizens. So I think it's very complex, and it's hard to just give a generalized answer. And I think it's very case by case. Do I take the opinions of sincere, close devotees over, and let's say I'm in a relationship that's not conducive to my bhakti, and maybe isn't healthy for my well-being at all, but how often do I find myself in a relationship that maybe isn't ideal, right? But listening to the advice and the opinions of good devotees that have good wisdom in that situation, I might need to make a tough call. But I feel like I'm rambling. I think you get the point.
So it's a wonderful reply, really, because someone that is responsible will consider everything before taking action, before make a choice, right? And as I said, Rama was a king. He was caring for population and to the happiness of the citizens there, which is quite different of the leadership that we see nowadays. But every situation has their own particularities, as you said. Like if someone is in an abusive relationship and people want this person to continue in an abusive marriage just to perform some duties, what about the health of someone that is inside this relationship, right? So replying your question, every situation is different and needs to be evaluated accordingly. Yeah, I agree with you. We have the last 3 slides now. So reflecting on the impact of people's opinions in our lives, like Rama, upon learning that people were saying Sita became impure after being kidnapped by another man. Question for everyone: how much should external opinions shape our decisions? Please share your opinion about it, trying to add something different than spoke before. Something to the reply of someone, agree or disagree. So continuing Devalaya's reflection, think that everyone would like to say 100% I just don't care. But in one level or another, we tend to care, right? For me, partly, external opinions shape my decision when are people that I value the opinion, that I admire, that inspire me. But I'm partly not concerned to the opinion of others that have different values, different goals, because it's just a different scale, a different weight. That's my personal opinion.
I think I'm going more or less in the same way that you were talking about, because I think that external opinion, we should consider external opinion not from everyone, but I also don't divide it by between being a devotee or not being a devotee. It's more like someone who cares about me and who I care about, and someone I trust. Because if we don't listen external opinion, it means that we know everything and you are able to take your own decisions without considering anyone else's opinion. So how many times did your mother or a friend or your husband, a wife, or someone you care gave you an opinion and changed your life or your decision for better? So I think we should be smart and intelligent to understand when people are just uh, talking nonsense and when people are trying to help you to have a better decision in your life. The final decision must be yours, but consider someone's opinion. It's also important, and I think.
I agree with you, Krishna Devi. It is about if I respect someone's opinion, if I have a strong relationship with them, devotee or non-devotee, like I will listen to that person and kind of sift and sort what they say to come upon my own decision. I mean, I cannot operate alone in this world. I really need the help of other people.
Right. That I probably would like to reply or not. So,
I would just agree with everyone. I think that was really wonderfully said.
thank you. So let's pass to the next one, please. Where's the line between integrity and conformity?
I have to say that that's something that I'm struggling with in a particular relationship right now, in a friendship. It's not that I don't have the integrity, it's more that do I conform to what this person wants me to do to maintain the relationship? And if I don't conform, then the friendship is no longer, it's not as strong. So I'm struggling with that a little bit.
Um, we are challenged in so many ways in relationships, right? Friendships, relationships, and we need to have the ability to. We need to give space to change ourselves if we are able to do it, but never passing through our values or integrity. I don't know if it's like this that you shared, but I was thinking about this.
I mean, I think ideally there wouldn't even be a line. Just live with integrity and you fit in where you fit in, because if you're living with integrity, you shouldn't need to compromise anything to fit in, right? You shouldn't have to conform to anything. If you fit with that group, you fit with them because they also have integrity, right? But if you're gonna conform just to fit in, that means you're having to compromise integrity. And I don't think you should ever compromise integrity. But that's in an ideal world, right? We are social creatures. We need connection. We need socialization. And sometimes that might mean some compromise. Um, Ideally, it won't have to compromise any core values or core integrity. Um, but that's not always how it is. Sometimes I have to tolerate some parts of people that I don't necessarily like, and that in an ideal world, I wouldn't necessarily have to interact with them, right? Whether it's coworkers or employees or bosses or even within the devotee community, like there's some people that it's like, you know what, I really don't like this person's personality. However, we're doing service together, and so I'm going to conform to maybe a different standard. I won't say a lower or a higher standard, but a different one in order to get along with this person to be able to perform a service, right? Um, so I think, yes, ideally, I don't want to ever compromise my integrity. Realistically, there may be situations where I do have to in some respect or another, because I am not a perfect person. Um, yeah, I do find myself in those situations on occasion where um, I don't get to necessarily live exactly how I want to live. And so I might make some accommodations, but I'm never going to go like way out of my way and really compromise my core values. That I won't do.
Yeah, this is very important. Know your core values and where you can adapt, adjust, or not. Madhavan, I don't know if you want to add something or if we should skip to the next slide. Please let me know.
You can go ahead.
Yeah, okay. It's going to be the last one, I guess. Yeah. If you could choose only one lesson from Rama Navami's pastime to share with people who are not yet familiar with the Krishna consciousness movement, what would it be? Explain why. Well, for me, it would be the determination of Ram in return to the kingdom and to sustain his word besides everything, besides all the challenge that he faced.
I would agree, overcoming obstacles. They're obstacles and challenges. They don't mean like a dead end.
For me, it's very simple. That very famous image where that Hanuman is open his chest and Rama is inside. I think this is the most important thing I learned from Ramayana is that you just need to trust Krishna and knows that he's with you all the time.
I would say lead by example, just like Ram did.
That's amazing, guys. Oh, this was the last slide. Thank you all for coming. Thank you, Devalaya, for leading the meeting. Madhuvana for giving lots of ideas to structure this special meeting. Rob for joining us again. You all for joining us again. I'm sorry for any mistake. I'm sorry for pass out our time a lot. I hope you had liked the meeting. See you all next week.
It was a wonderful discussion. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thanks for all the time and thought you put into this. This was pretty incredible discussion. Thank you, Devalaya, for stepping up and making it happen.
Thanks for putting up with me.
You make it so hard. Just kidding.
And thank you, Prema, for all the effort you did with all the ideas and the slides. It was wonderful.
Thank you all for coming. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Haribol.